Good day, everyone. So today, I am going to talk about one of the most important foundations of economic governance. This is monetary policy and financial systems. Hindi lang ito tungkol sa kaperahan class. Hindi lang ito tungkol sa kung paano umiikot sa buong ekonomiya ang pera. Na-discuss na natin to before doon sa isang chapter. At sa puntong ito, hindi lang simpleng kung paano umiikot yung pera magmula sa pagbili natin sa tindahan hanggang doon sa decisions ng gobyerno at ng Bangko Sentral. So, our objective today is not just to memorize concepts, but to really understand how these ideas operate in real life in the context of the Philippines and what is happening now in our economy. So gusto natin makita kung paano naapektuhan ng global events yung economy natin, like katulad ng oil price hike na naging effect ng Middle East crisis, no? At kung paano nagko-cope ngayon yung ating government dito sa pagsubok na ito. I want you to focus on this particular slide. So we are going to talk about 6 different topics. So what are these topics? The nature and functions of money, financial system structure, the banking system and money creation, the role of the central bank, monetary policy, and regulation and supervision. So we will start with a simple discussion now on money. What is the nature and functions of money? So ano ba talaga ang pera? So historically, money did not always look like what we have today, no? Nagsimula tayo sa tinatawag na commodity money bago ito naging fiat money. So magkaiba yung commodity sa fiat money. Yung commodity money, ito yung may mga bagay na may intrinsic values. Katulad ng ginto o kaya bigas. O doon sa may ibang society, yung mga shells, no? But over time, itong mga ginagamit nating medium of exchange or money ay nag-evolve, no? Nagbago ito. Sa kung ano ang meron tayo ngayon. Ang meron tayo ngayon ay tinatawag na fiat money. So, fiat money ay walang intrinsic value. Yung papel, wala siyang value talaga, no? Na intrinsic. Yung value nito, nanggagaling doon sa authority ng government. Its value is derived from the authority of the government and the trust of the public. As sa Pilipinas, ang peso na ini-issue ng Bangko Sentral ay isang halimbawa. Naalala nyo, ng panahon ng Hapon, nagprint ng marami pera ang government. Pero ito ay walang halaga, no? Tinawag nila itong Mickey Mouse money. Ang pinaka-importante dito ay ang pera ay nanggagaling doon sa public trust. It is built on trust. Kapag nawala ng tiwala ang mga tao sa currency, nagkakaroon ng instability. Now, kahit na nag-evolve na yung pera natin from commodity money to fiat money, at sa ngayon, meron pa nga tayong digital payments like GCash and PayMaya, no? At siguro darating ang panahon, ganyan na lang talaga yung magiging currency natin. Pero meron pa naman tayo ngayong physical cash. So pag minsan tinatanong ko sana ko kung meron ka bang physical na pera, no? But yung pera natin mostly now we pay through digital money, no? The core function of money, kahit iba-ibang form nito, ay iisa lang, and that is a medium of exchange of goods and services. So, it's a medium of exchange. Itong ginagamit natin para makabili tayo ng goods and services. Pero isipin ninyo, kapag tumataas ang presyo ng langis dahil sa global tensions, ay tumataas din ang presyo ng ibang commodity like yung pamasahe o kaya yung pagkain. Ang ibig sabihin, bumababa ang purchasing power ng pera. Bumababa ang purchasing power ng pera. Secondly, money is a unit of account, no? Money is a unit of account. Ito ang ginagamit nating pera para sukatin ang value ng mga commodity. Pero kapag may inflation, pabago-bago ang presyo. Kaya nagiging mas mahirap ang budgeting at planning kasi nagbabago-bago. Pangatlo, money is a store of value. Dito natin iniipon ang kayamanan natin, no? Pero kapag mataas na ang inflation, ang ipon natin ay unti-unting nababawasan in real value. Ang pera natin, umuunti na lang ang nabibili. So, to better understand how money moves in the economy, we look at money supply, no? May tinatawag tayong M1, no? Ibig sabihin ng M1 ay ito, ang kasama dito yung mga cash at saka mga demand deposits. Ang M2 naman includes savings and time deposits. These measures help policymakers understand how much liquidity is circulating in the economy. But money does not exist in isolation. Hindi ito umiikot mag-isa. So, it flows through what we call financial systems. Okay? Financial systems. The financial system is composed of institutions and markets. On one hand, we have financial institutions such as the banks, like BDO or BPI, and other non-bank institutions like SSS or GSIS or insurance company. Their role is to collect savings and channel them into investments. Ang role ng banking institutions is to collect money, no? So that they can be invested. On the one hand, we have financial markets. Financial markets or the money market deals with short-term instruments like capital market, which deals with long-term investments like stocks or bonds. Like kapag bibili kayo ng shares sa stock market, that is a long-term investment. So, hinihintay nyo na lang tumubo yung investment nyo, yung stocks nyo. Halimbawa, bumili kayo ng some stocks sa Jollibee o kaya Google. So, you can buy sa stocks market kung alin ang open. For example, companies raise funds through Philippine Stock Exchange. Ang kalagahan nito ay very simple lang, no? Without functioning financial systems, economic growth is impossible. Kasi hindi na maiikot yung pera, no? At walang investment, walang pondo ang negosyo, walang pag-unlad, pag ganon. So, yun ang kahalagahan ng pera. Now, let's move to one of the most powerful concepts in banking. That is money creation. No? Money creation. Banks do not simply store money. They actually create money. And this happens through the functioning reserve banking. So, halimbawa ng reserve banking, ay halimbawa nag-deposit ka ng 1,000, ang requirement ng batas ay 10% kailangang itabi ng mga bangko, no? So, yung 10% din ng 1,000 ay 100. So, the remaining 900, anong ginagawa actually ng bangko dito? The banks lend them out. So, imbis na ang bangko ang nagpapahiram sa atin, actually silang nanghihiram sa atin, and then ikot nila ito, ini-invest nila ito, ini-invest in the form of loans, no? So anong kita ng loan, no? Ang kita ng loan ay interest, okay? So kumikita yung bangko, and in this way it creates money. So this process repeats, creating more money in the system. This is what we call money multiplier. Okay? So, don't forget, money multiplier. However, hindi ito unlimited. Okay? May constraints ito. Una, yung tinatawag nating currency leakage. Nangyayari ito kapag pinili ng mga tao na hindi na itabi nila yung kanilang mga pera. Itabi nila yung kanilang pera at hindi sila mag-deposit. Yun ang tinatawag nating leakage. Pangalawa, yung tinatawag nating excess reserves. This naman happens the part of the banks. Kapag yung mga bangko ayaw magpautang. Okay? Bakit ayaw magpautang ng mga bangko? Dahil hindi sila sure kung makakabayad yung mga mangungutang, no? May panahon kasi, no, so halimbawa pag panahon ng crisis, yung mga lending institutions nagiging cautious din sa pagpapahiram. Pero ang effect nito sa economy ay negative. Ito yung leakage din na tinatawag kapag ayaw magpahiram ng bangko dahil may uncertainty. Okay. So this brings us to the topic on financial stability, no? The biggest risk in banking is the loss of confidence. Kapag natatakot ng mga tao at sabay-sabay nag-withdraw, nagkakaroon ng ganito kapag halimbawa may threat sa economy, no? O kaya ang tawag, merong instability sa politics, katulad ng nangyayari ngayon, no? So, anong gagawin natin? We want to hold our cash, di ba? So, kapag natakot yung mga tao, sabay-sabay silang nag-withdraw, ang tawag natin dito ay bank run, no? Bank run. So, kahit stable yung bangko, pwede itong bumagsak, no? So, to prevent this, may tinatawag na deposit insurance. Dito sa Pilipinas, ito yung PDIC or Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. Ini-insure nito yung mga bangko na hindi babagsak yung mga bangko. At may regulation from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, these institutions, class, ensure that the system remains stable. Okay? So, that's what happens, no? So, let's talk naman about the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas plays 3 major roles, no? First, it is the issuer of money. So, nanggagaling ang mga pera sa Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Pangalawa, it acts as the banker of the government. So, the government can control banking through the BSP. Pangatlo, it serves as the lender of the last resort. The lender of the last resort. Meaning, tumutulong ito sa mga bangko pagdating ng panahon ng krisis. Okay? Like, kapag naubos na yung funds ng mga bangko, the BSP will help fund yung mga banks. The main objective of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas are price stability, full employment, and financial stability. Pero ang pinaka-priority talaga ng bangko na ito is to control inflation. Importante ang independence ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Kailangang hindi ito maapektuhan ng political pressure. Pero at the same time, accountable pa rin ito sa public. How does the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas control money, no? This is where monetary policy comes in. So there are 3 tools. First, the open market operations, buying and selling government securities to control liquidity. Pag sinabi nating liquidity, is how much money is available in the market, no? May pera pa ba sa market? Pag tinanong natin yung ganon, ang ibig sabihin nito, tinitingnan natin kung mayroon pa tayong mauutang, diba, sa mga lending institutions. Secondly, policy interest rates. Okay, ito ay function ng government monetary policy. Yung interest rates, no? Meron dapat itong control kasi nakasalalay dito yung stability ng financial systems. Okay? Ito ang benchmark ng kung magkano ang kailangan para makahiram tayo, no? Kasi yung loans, yung lending institutions, they thrive upon the interests. Okay? However, this has to be balanced off. Kasi kapag masyadong mataas yung interest, ay magkakaroon pa rin ng instability. So, it is the task or the function of the government to fix the interest rates para hindi naman ito maabuso. Thirdly, reserve requirements. Ano ibig sabihin ng reserve requirements? Kung gaano karaming deposits ang dapat itabi ng mga bangko. So, ito ang nagre-regulate yung government, no? Yung Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, hindi agad-agad ang epekto ng policies na ito. Dumadaan ito sa tinatawag na transmission mechanisms. So, what are transmission mechanisms? So, may 4 na channels. The interest rates channel. Second, yung credit channel. Third, expectations channel. And the fourth is the exchange rate channel. Halimbawa, kapag itinaas ang interest rates, nagiging mahal ang utang, kaya bumababa ang spending ng mga tao. And this eventually reduces inflation. Okay? In extreme cases, gumagamit ang central bank ng unconventional policies, katulad ng quantitative easing, no? At forward guidance. Bakit importante ito sa public administration? Ito ay dahil monetary policy essentially affects governance. Kapag mataas ang interest rates, mas mahal ang mga loans. Okay? Mas mahal ang loan ng gobyerno. Kapag mataas ang inflation, bumababa ang value ng government budget. So, can you imagine kapag tumaas ang interest rates? Ang nakabudget lang certain amount. So, ano mangyayari sa gobyerno class? So, hindi lang yung sahod ng mga public employees ang lumiliit, diba? Lumiliit din talaga yung pondo ng gobyerno kapag nagkakaroon ng inflation. Kasi yung nakabudget na pera ay nagiging weak, o kaya ibig sabihin lumiliit ang value ng pera ng gobyerno. kapag mataas ang inflation. So, hindi lang ito macro concept. This directly affects local governance. So, let's talk about regulation. Yung financial regulation naman, it exists to ensure stability, to protect consumers, and to maintain market integrity. Tools include capital requirements, liquidity standards, and macro-prudential policy. Okay? Even with regulation, crisis still happen. Kaya mahalaga ang lessons from financial crisis. Na nakikita natin ngayon sa situation ng economy natin, like yung contagion o kaya moral hazard and accountability. So, let's look at monetary policy in practice. Kapag mataas ang inflation, anong ginagawa ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas? Ito ay nagpapatupad ng mahigpit na monetary policy, usually by increasing interest rates. Kapag may recession naman, gumagamit ito ng expansionary policy, lowering rates to stimulate the economy. Yung interest rates, binababaan niya ng Bangko Sentral, no? Para mas maraming pera magiging mas maraming mangungutang, no, kapag mababang interest. Pero hindi sapat ang monetary policy. Kailangan may coordination din with fiscal policy, like government spending and subsidies. Let's apply everything through a case. So imagine kapag tumaas ang oil prices dahil sa giyera sa Middle East, tumataas ang inflation, humihina ang peso, at nahihirapan ang mga negosyo. What should BSP do? Should it raise the interest rates? Ano ang magiging trade-offs? At the same time, ano ang magiging role ng government? Magbibigay ba ng subsidy? Babawasan ba ang taxes? So these are the questions you have to answer. Okay, so going back to the principles, you might be able to give a good decision if you are part of the team who will make the decision on what policy the government should take. Now consider another scenario. Ito naman, banking crisis. Ano ba ang banking crisis? Kapag may bank na nagkaroon ng liquidity problem. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Wala na siyang pera na available. Ang ibig sabihin ng pag tinanong kayo, liquid ka ba? Ibig sabihin may pera ka ba na available for spending. So, yung liquidity problem sa isang bangko, napakaseryoso noon, di ba? Nagkakaroon ng panic yung mga depositors, no? Anong gagawin nila? Withdrawin nila yung kanilang pera. So, anong gagawin ng BSP ngayon? Anong gagawin ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas? Ano ang magiging role ng PDIC? At yung mga bangko ba ay dapat na paano i-save yung bangko, no? Paano ito? Dapat ba ito ay magsara na lang kasi wala ng pera? Okay? So, these are real-world policy dilemmas. So, to conclude, monetary policy is not just about controlling inflation. It is about maintaining stability, supporting growth, ensuring resilience in a very uncertain global environment. And most importantly, all of these decisions, kahit ginagawa pa sa national level, they have real effects down at the barangay level. So that is why understanding monetary policy is very essential, not just for economists, but for public administrators as well. So thank you, and I hope you learned something from Soksai 2 macroeconomics. Bye!